What's going on, car family? I'm Ben Wayne, and thank you for joining me in another video. Yes, I am testing the Nissan Z again. I know I just tested this car a few weeks back, but that was an automatic, and quite frankly, to test the automatic version of an enthusiast car alone felt a little sinful. So I said, hey, Nissan, if you have another one and it's a manual, send it back. Let me get the true experience, the way this car is supposed to be driven, right? So here we are in the 2023 Nissan Z with the 6-speed manual instead of the automatic. And I can already tell you in the few days I've had it, it's a lot more engaging than the automatic vehicle, right? You can truly enjoy this car the way it's meant to be driven. And it's just loads of fun to drive, right? Even in the traffic that I've sat in here in Atlanta, you know, one thing about having a manual in Atlanta is sometimes when you get stuck in traffic, it can get a little annoying, right? And I got stuck in traffic a few times, I'm not gonna lie, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So even if you are looking at a Nissan Z but want a manual transmission, even in a city like Atlanta, it's doable. It's completely doable to live with a car like this. And I love the synchronized rev matching when you downshift. It's just super fun to hear that engine. All right, so this car is pretty much the exact same spec as the last one I tested. With the exception of the fact that this is a manual transmission. So I'm going to be using the B-roll from the automatic vehicle. Just know that this one I'm testing here is a manual, right? So we'll just lightly touch on the design and the technical stuff since we already covered that in our previous video. The design is what you would expect. It pays respect to the vehicles of the past, right? And I really love that aesthetic about the Nissan Z because one of my favorite models of the Z is the 300ZX. And that was, I think, the early 90s model, right? And if you look at the taillights, you can definitely see it has those heritage taillights in the back there. All LED everything, of course, but it's just really easy on the eye. And for those of you who are familiar with the vehicle, you will recognize those traits from the previous generation incorporated into the design. That's what makes this car really cool. You know, I drove this to work a couple times and one person came out and said, hey, when I was in college, you know, I wanted to have a Z. This was a long time ago. And this new one looks really cool. It looks exactly like the one I was chasing after back then. So for me, that tells you that Nissan did an excellent job in terms of the overall design because it is something that is instantly recognizable to even a person who's not a car person as a Z. So they kept those same design characteristics from the 300, the 240, you know, everything that makes the Z special has been incorporated into the design here. So you have a long hood, you have that squared off grille, which again, I mentioned in my previous video, I was a little skeptical about that, but in person, it seems to work. You have the LED taillights. Underneath that long hood, a 3-liter twin-turbo V6 power plant, giving you 400 horsepower, 350 pound-feet of torque. Of course, in this application, it's connected to a manual. Now, your 0 to 60 times are going to be in about the low 4s, right? Which is pretty good. For me, cars like this, the power that you have in them is usable. If you're driving something, you know, like a Corvette Z06 or something like that, you can't actually use all the power on a casual drive. You know, this you could take it out and truly feel like you stretch the car's legs, right? You know, Corvette, you're gonna get into some trouble, right? So you can really have fun with a lot less power. That's why you see people driving cars like the Miata. That's why that car sells so well. Because while it's not the most powerful thing on the street, it gives you that illusion that you're able to play and punch a little harder than you really are. And that's the fun factor. That's what makes cars like these so much fun. So coming over to the side profile, again, we have the 19-inch wheels fitted on this one, just like we did the other model. And you have that sloped roof design, which is black on top and goes nicely into the rear hatch. Really love that design. It almost makes the car look like it's haunching, and it really just highlights the hips over those rear wheels, right? That's my favorite part of the car, that notch there. That is reminiscent of the 240Z. So I think that's easily by far my favorite part of this vehicle, just how much it pulls from the Nissan Zs of the past. Now again, coming towards the rear, you have a hatch. You can store a little bit of stuff there, but obviously this isn't your grocery getting vehicle if you have like a family of 5, right? When you're buying a vehicle like this, you know what to expect, so I'm not going to spend too much time on the trunk. Of course, you got that rear cross bracing there as well. And then again, as I mentioned, you have those heritage style tail lamps, which pay respect to that 300ZX of the past. Now, as far as the handling goes in this car, it handles like a true sports car should. It feels balanced. There isn't a second that you're behind the wheel of this thing where you feel like you have to wrestle with the car to get it to do what you want to do, right? So if there's ever a time where you just want to go on a spirited run, you're not intimidated wondering what the car is going to do as you're going through, switchbacks of a country road or something like that. Now, you also have a mechanical limited slip differential as well. That's going to aid with your handling, and an aluminum double wishbone suspension and multi-link design in the rear, right? So obviously, it's important that a car like this handles well, and Nissan focused on that quite a bit. All right. Now, coming to the interior, you'll notice, like I said in the previous video, there are some parts that are recognizable, right? Oh, man. What was I saying? This car is so much fun to drive. Now, when it comes to the interior, one thing you'll notice is that you will see some parts from the past. Just minor parts like door handles, your buttons for your heated seats. And I'm not going to fault Nissan for that. One of the primary missions of the Z is to make it obtainable and affordable. If everything in a car is new, obviously that cost is going to get passed down to the consumer, you and me. So what Nissan wanted to do was make a sports car that's affordable for people to drive. And this car comes in at about $52,000 as shown. It starts a little bit less than that. And the way they were able to do that is by keeping some of those parts, saving a little bit of money on R&D, and using a power plant that previously existed. So a lot of the negatives that people will say about this car really are a positive because it makes it affordable. In today's world, it's really hard to have a decent sports car that doesn't cause a divorce if you're a family man, and doesn't have you living underneath a bridge even if you're single, right? Car payments are insane today, and you want to be able to drive a car that you can sleep at night knowing that ownership isn't going to turn into the car owning you, right? So Nissan, again, they knocked it out the park when it came to making this car affordable. So I think this car is truly something that you're going to see a lot of people wanting to have. And even as depreciation kicks in, it's going to become that much more affordable as well. So that's just my thoughts on that. Now the interior, of course, you're getting the Apple CarPlay, a much needed update, large touchscreen. The old interior was completely dated, It'd been out for over 10 years. You have a thin film transistor display located behind the steering wheel. The steering wheel is an all new design as well. You have controls on the steering wheel to control different settings here as well. And then the seats, they're relatively comfortable for what this car is capable of. And of course, they do offer 2 levels of heating. There's no ventilation. You're kind of getting what you get here. This is a fun vehicle, an enthusiast vehicle. It is not a luxury vehicle. Now, as far as space, I don't feel cramped in this vehicle whatsoever. I'm about 5'11", so it is quite spacious for the average driver. So overall, this is an excellent handling vehicle that won't destroy your savings if this is what you're looking at. I'm really excited to see what Nissan has in store for the Roadster version of this vehicle. I'm a convertible person all the way. So when these cars come out, especially cars like this one, they're often already designed as a convertible. So I'm anxious to see what that's going to look like and what the price point of something like that will be like. The Z has always been a car that I've felt was extremely special. I know it's not the most rare thing on the street, but if you get behind the wheel and drive them, they're truly fun to experience. So I've driven the 300, the 350, the 370, and now this one, and they've all just been really fun cars to enjoy. And it's proof that you can get a car that's loads of fun that doesn't have to cost $100,000. And the manual version of this vehicle, honestly, maybe this car should only be available in a manual. And I know that's going far. They probably, make it automatic to help with the sales of the vehicle. But it's just so much more fun than the automatic version of this vehicle. I mean, there's so much more engagement just throwing through the gears. You guys got to get behind the wheel and test this thing. So I'm really glad that Nissan sent over this manual version, because it just takes the experience of this vehicle to another level, honestly. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comment section. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And until next time, I'm Ben Wayne, the automotive reviewer that YouTube deserves. I'll catch you guys in the next one.